Heretic, welcome to 69 Faces of Rock. Introduce yourself and tell me what you do.
My name is Korban. I'm the guitarist of Heretic.
Yep.
I'm Julian Mendez. I'm the vocals of Heretic.
How are you guys doing today?
Oh, we're doing
fantastic.
Great. We're doing great. Glad to be alive here in New York.
Yep, here in Brooklyn to raise some hell, for sure.
So when did Heretic initially form?
In the 80s, around 1986 or 85, somewhere around there, just out of high school. Started the band, and influenced by European metal. We were kind of hungry for that kind of sound, and then the LA scene was slowly growing, and it was perfect timing. Just kept it going,
Which kind of brings me to my next question. LA scene was known for a lot of glam bands, yet you are kind of straightforward heavy metal band, like you said, with very heavy-duty European influence. How did you kind of survive in that?
Well, there was a line in between LA. They had a lot of underground punk that was happening, and it wasn't unusual to see punk rock bands booked with metal bands of our category, and yeah, there was issues, but nothing major. It's all about the music. But we kind of kept to ourselves as well as our crowd, our people, and the hair band eventually took over all the strip of Hollywood. Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of the hair bands were more commercial sounding, and so I think there was more. It seemed like all of LA was glam, but there was an equal amount of metal everywhere. There were shows at all times in LA at that time, but the glam bands got signed to major labels, and I think they just drew more attention because they were on major labels. But our scene was just as strong, and it was there. It just didn't stand out as much, I think.
So, how long before labels came calling?
Well, for Heretic, right away. We pretty much got signed as soon as we formed, and we did an EP. A one-song thing for Metal Massacre. So we signed with Metal Blade, and then we did an EP with Metal Blade. So it was from the start. Metal Blade was the first time I ever recorded.
And the song you did on Metal Massacre, how crucial was that?
Metal Massacre 7, I want to say, and it's called Impulse. We actually play the song in our set right now, so it's an oldie, and we still play it, so it's good.
What did it do for you, like popularity-wise?
Well, Heretic could have always been more. I don't know what we weren't able to tour, I think, at the time. Things just didn't happen, and I can't explain why.
Around the same time, you released your first EP, Torture Has No Boundaries, right?
Yes.
How did it do for you?
That was a big step. Once it came out, we went from playing our local club in the San Pedro Waters Club, selling those out, to double booking, selling matinees out in Hollywood, getting bigger opening status with some of the bigger bands around. We're definitely got noticed with the radio station, KNEC at the time, played it, and that kind of brought us up to an equal standard of all the high caliber bands in LA. We definitely had the draw. Heretic, mind you, I wasn't the original singer, but I am the singer off the EP and so forth on after.
Anything else to add about the EP?
It was, how proud can you be? It's our first recording we've really done, and when it came out, the world's gonna be ours, but like I said, unfortunately we weren't able to tour with it really. We were willing to, but things just didn't work out. But it's still, to this day, one of my favorite things I've ever recorded, Torture Knows a Band.
Shortly after, you were gone.
Yeah.
How come? What happened?
Well, there's a lot of things that happen internally, externally. There was a lot of rumors, talks, and I just kind of stepped off the side. I knew we had management, huge management at the time. I kind of stepped back and let things happen, I kind of wish I didn't, but it was beyond my control. I think it was beyond the band's control at that time. And reality is I joined another band, a band called Stone Soldier. Yeah, they had a scene, and when I jumped in that, it just went nuts. We started selling out everything, but I was always looking in on my bros from Heretic, you know, 'cause Breaking Point album, I was supposed to record that album, but it just wasn't meant to be as far as the label and management was decided. So I ended up having, as everybody knows, Mike Howe recorded that album. And what a brilliant singer, man. What an awesome dude. We actually toured with Snare during Metal Church and Heretic and Metallica's release of their Master of Puppets. And it was a good time for metal. It was a good time for music back then. So I always looked in a little envious, a little bitter.
But you're back.
for the choices that were made and for my choice of actually stepping back. But you know what? All things are meant to be. History is printed. Mike Howe was brilliant on it. The band got another stepping stone.
And we were able to stay close to this, you know. Even when he was in Stone Soldier, I went to the shows. I loved what he was doing. And then that's why when we reformed in 2012, it was so easy. He gave me a call and said, "Hey, do you want to maybe put a show together for a weekend?" And the answer was yes immediately. And now we've been doing it for another 10, 15 years already.
So, how did you find Mike Howe at that point?
He was in a local band called Snare at the time, and you know, they were a powerful kind of AC/DC sounding band. Really brought to us by our manager. He pushed the idea. You know, I don't know what he saw. You know, we knew Snare. I knew Mike, and it just, I guess, formed from that. The label was talking about it too, so unfortunately we went with it. You know, but made a great album. You know.
Breaking Point was your first album. What memories do you have from recording them and making that album?
Yeah, I mean, first major recording where we you know, took us 2-3 weeks to record. Great songs on there. Just some of them favorite that I've ever written. You know, there's a song called "The Search" or "Time Runs Short." Those songs are very personal to me. Songs that we do now in Kingdoms Fall, and we're talking about doing "Let 'Em Bleed," which is kind of a thrashier tune. It's a fantastic album, and I'm glad it really never disappeared. A lot of people through all my time in the industry have always brought up, you know, your early stuff is so fantastic, you know, and so I'm very proud of it.
Were you able to tour for that record?
No, that's Heretic's demise. Was we played locally. We played maybe Texas, or we would do short little trips, San Francisco here and there. But we were just about to go on tour with Hellstar, and Mike Howe left for Metal Church.
How did that happen?
As a career move for him, you know, Metal Church was a signed band to a major label, and it made sense for him. You know, it just, for us, we had just released Breaking Point, so why does the record label want to promote it? You know, we don't even have the same singer anymore. So it kind of killed Breaking Point as soon as it was released, just fell off the map.
So at this point, the band breaks up, right?
Well, we stay together. We searched for a singer for a little while, but in reality, everyone was saying the politics of changing singers with Metal Church would be a great story. David Wayne is looking for a band, and your singer goes to Metal Church. That would be a great story.
What a switch, right?
That kind of sold us on it, I guess. You know, and so that's really how that formed.
And that became Reverend.
That became Reverend.
And what memories do you have of that?
Great band. Stu, our current guitar player, played in Reverend. It was basically Heretic with Dave Wayne singing. You know, great songs again. You know, I was able to tour for the first time with that band. I mean, great memories.
Now, both David Wayne and Brian Howe are gone. What memories do you have of that?
I'm holding on close to him so he doesn't...
I know.
Now that you killed off two singers, Brian, what are you going to do next?
I'm going to sing, no. Yeah, it's terrible. Mike's situation was horrible. Same thing with David Wayne. He died so tragically.
Terrible loss for
you know, they both made their mark in history. I'm very proud of both of those guys, you know. Through the years, people come up and just, you know, Dave Wayne, you know, revered as a god to so many people. So it was an honor to work with him, really.
How come Reverend didn't really last that long?
Dave. Really, I don't know what the situation was with it. We changed drummers a few times because of like one drummer he got sick on tour. It was hard to keep it all together, and I don't know. It was a weird period for Dave. I think he was. I don't know.
Yeah, can't speak for him.
He wanted to do it, but the commitment wasn't there. And for us as a band, we wanted to keep moving. We had let's tour, let's do this. That's why we didn't tour a lot, because he didn't want to go out. Didn't want to spend the money.
So there was a long time of silence until 2012. What was happening with you at that time?
Well, I did another band. We kind of kept pieces of Reverend together, and we played local LA stuff, never recorded anything. There's a band called Seed. Tried keeping it going for as long as we could, but the scene kind of died when Seattle happened, and record labels really weren't signing music anymore. It was just a weird period in LA to be in a band. There was no music scene, there was nothing. So I had just gotten married, looking at having kids. I just kind of gave it up for a while,
So around 2012, you and Julian reformed Heretic and released A Time of Crisis. Maybe you can tell me about that.
Yeah, prior to that, about a year, I'd say, before actually truly forming Heretic again, I got asked by a promoter, an old friend of mine, and he goes, "Hey, I'm doing this Metal Blade gig out in San Diego, and I really would love to get Heretic on the bill. What are the chances?" And I go, "Well, considering we haven't spoken to each other in 15 years, probably not good." I go, "But I will reach out." And no sooner I did, I had a contact with Dennis O'Hara, who reached out to Brian, and it was on. I mean, I called the promoter back, I think it was the next day, and said, "We'll do it." We had a couple rehearsals. We didn't have the original lineup, but it was Dennis O'Hara, Brian Korban, myself, and it was Stu. Stu was playing it, yeah. Stu, although he was an original Heretic from the first two, EP and the album, but he did play some part in Heretic. He was always a good friend, and actually he played keyboards on Breaking Point, right? Yeah. So he officially was a Heretic at the Breaking Point album, but really never announced. So yeah, Stu played guitars on that first gig, and we got a drummer. We hired a drummer, and we did the one show, and it was great. And it felt great, felt right. The energy was good. I think we did the show with Betsy Bitch and Black and Blue, I believe it was, and it felt good. It's just that, I don't know. I guess we never kept contacts or even exchanged contact numbers, and kind of just went away. Lived our lives, and somehow through, I think it was, what was the one before Facebook?
MySpace. My youngest son, he put a MySpace out there and goes, "This is some of my dad's music," and he put out the EP of Stone Soldier, which was a band that I joined after Heretic, and actually put the EP on there. So I think it was Glenn Rogers, a number of the bands, but most known from Hyrax. Glenn had reached out to my son and said, "Hey, do you know Julian?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's my dad." He goes, "Well, can you tell him we need to talk to him and give us a call?" So he gave me the info, slid it by. I called Rogers, and lo and behold, Brian's with Rogers, and he said, "Hey, we're thinking about putting a band together. Let's have a rehearsal." So we went out and rehearsed, went out to Orange County and rehearsed. And we did some O-tunes, and it was a little rough. I mean, I hadn't sang in so many years, and to sing such powerful music like that, it kind of hurt a little. And I said, "Man, that's kind of like trying to jump on a racing bike and not warming up, It kind of hurt a little bit, but I remember it felt good. It was a good vibe, and for some reason, Glenn goes, "Hey, Brian and I want to start this band again, and we want to call it Heretic." For some reason, my immediate reaction was no, and I heard myself say no. I was saying yes inside, but no came out, and I was going. It was a little bitter pill to swallow, so to speak, to me at the time. Mm-hmm.
I had to sit there on it for a while, and after thinking about it, and I've talked to Brian. Brian always was around, even when I left Heretic. Brian would go show up to shows. We'd drive out to a few of my shows. He actually, when I left Stone Soldier, it was Brian and our old road manager, Jim Eller, who jumped in my truck from a gig. I just had bad terms with Stone Soldier and left that evening from the Troubadour and drove out to Frisco to go audition for Laughing Dead out in Frisco or Oakland.
Yeah.
And these guys just without hesitation said, "We'll go with you." And from the Troubadour straight over to Oakland, auditioned for a band, and never once thought about it. I go, these are my friends, and look at them, they're backing me up for doing other ventures, you know. And when I came back and thought about that moment after I'd said no to Brian and Glenn, I thought about it, and I called Brian. I said, "You know what, Brian, I'll do it, but this is why I think I said no." It was an old wound. It didn't really quite heal, and that was on a lot of that's just something I held, you know. But reality, man, it was a part of history. History lives, history tells, and there's many sides to it. But the reality is, it's a part of history. Mike Howe was a part of this band. He was a family member. We toured with Snare when we were playing with Metal Church. Ironically, that little group just kind of intertwined, you know. And I looked back and said, man, I never once doubted Brian. And I even asked Brian, even during those times, I go, Brian, I want to write some music, but I want your influence. Because me and Brian sat down during the Breaking Point album, or the making of it, and we wrote some ideas. We threw ideas out. I remember being in Brian's room and hashing those out. So I always wanted him to write something for me, or I wanted to do something other than what I was doing at the time. And I just gave up music altogether. But then I started to think about all that old time and all the stuff that I really, truly held. And I called Brian and said, I don't even know why I said that, Brian. I go, everything that I wanted is what you had to offer, and here you are throwing it in my lap and just saying, hey, let's do this. I go, I don't even know why I said no. I go, so from that point on, I just made my vow to Brian. I said, bro, I'm going to do this for you because I'm older, I'm fatter, I'm not as youthful. I go, but I'll do my best and I'll do my damnedest not to let you down. And I go, this is it. I go, I'm your guy, and there's no turning back from this. And we've been right here with each other.
I think the idea was to just reform and, you know, play some of the old songs. I think that's what, you know, the offer was for people to have us play. Hey, yeah, play some Heretic stuff. I started writing right away, you know, whatever was coming out, you know, hey, I'm just going to start writing new Heretic material. And the songs came out so fast that we had a whole album within months after we reformed. So,
do you think you were able to capture the old spirit of Heretic?
I'm sorry?
Do you think you were able to capture the old spirit of Heretic?
That's what I tried to. You know, I think rather than us reform and sound like a new metal band, or, you know, or change the format of what Heretic's all about, I think would be an injustice to our history. So I thought, if we're going to reform Heretic, let's keep it as similar as I can to what we were doing in the past. And I think I have. I mean, I'm not consciously thinking, oh, this doesn't sound like Heretic. I'm writing whatever comes out. But I think it translates to Heretic very well.
Now, also around the same time, Metal Blade released a box of your old recordings. Were you involved in that at all?
That was, I have to say, a lot had to do with our old guitar player, Glenn. When we reformed with Glenn Rogers, he really spoke with Metal Blade about putting it together and getting it going, and he gathered a lot of the material for it, and he did a lot of the legwork. So I'm really going to give him a lot of credit for them releasing. They did such a fantastic job on it, but it's so rare now, you can't find it anywhere, you know. So, but it's a great, if you can come across one, it's a fantastic collection.
At this point, are you able to do Heretic full-time, or is this like a part-time operation?
Oh no, it's full-time. This is the only band I play in. I write songs, I write every kind of music, but the only band I play in is Heretic. Our drummer plays in tons of cover bands, and Angelo he played with Bitch for a while, but I think right now he's just playing with Heretic only. Stu has cover bands that he plays in, but you know.
Julian, are there any plans for future recordings?
Yes, a matter of fact, this festival, Armageddon 6, that Ed put together, Mr. Farstay, we reached out to him about 2.5 years ago, it might have been 2 years ago, and wanted to play this festival for obvious reasons. We're good friends with Blood Feast, and we'd like to get out to the East Coast, but it didn't happen because of the pandemic. So after everything started opening up, he reached out and said, hey, you guys still available? And I said, yes, we're recording currently, but we'll just finish up the 3 songs we had started. We stopped, we went into rehearsals for this festival, this gig that you're gonna hear tonight, and we'll continue recording when we get back home.
We're currently 3 new ones tonight, 3 new songs from the next album.
So you get a preview of the new album coming up.
Finally, what drove you to do this for nearly, 4 decades, I think?
Being a kid with a tennis racket, looking in the mirror, pretending I'm Jimmy Page or Michael Schenker. I've always, before I could even play, I knew I wanted to be on stage and be a rock star. Music was so important to me, I wanted to write music for the world to, have forever. Once I release it, it's out there for everyone. I loved music so much as a kid that once I picked up the guitar, I was terrible. I couldn't do guitar lessons, but I was so driven. I started writing music before I could really play very well. So it just started from there and never stopped.
What about you, Julian?
Well, you know what? It's an addiction. It never really leaves you. They always say that the music picks you, you don't pick the music. There was no way in my youngest group. I always had aspirations of being a singer. My mother was a singer, my father was a musician. I knew I was going to be a musician. I was playing trumpet from age 10. I probably can't do nothing now. I got an old trumpet that the keys don't even work on it. But I haven't even touched it. But reality is this music found me. It put me in this notch. I was going to be something else other than a metal singer, but I love the music, and there was just no turning back. Once it gets in your blood, it's part of you. It's just a way of life. And I tried to run from it. I've even hit it. My wife didn't even know I was a singer in a band when she married me. She never had no idea until my son put a little MySpace on there, and she goes, "Oh, that's you? You were in a band?" And I go, "Yeah, I was in a band, but I never made a big deal of it. I just kind of kept it in the back, kind of my selfish little bones in my closet." And when she found out that they wanted me to front the band again, she thought, yes, go ahead. That'd be a great little hobby. We could do things on the weekend or whatever, And I said, no, it's a little more than that. Once she started taking my little picture my son had of me back when I was in Heretic with my long hair and vest, because when she met me, my hair had a number 2 razor up the side, had no hair really. And she took an old photo and put it on her desk, and I think it was one of her IT techs or somebody that was doing her computer cleanup looked over and said, "Hey, you know a Heretic?" And she's "No, that's my husband." She goes, "You married a Heretic?" And she goes, "No, that's my husband. What are you talking about?" He goes, "You don't know who your husband is?" And he typed it in on her computer, and all this stuff came up, and she came home just mouth open, wide-eyed, going, "Who are you?" I'm going, "Was this a trick question? What'd I do? What'd you find out?" I'm going, "Nothing." but no, she showed me what her technician had showed her, and I go, "Yeah, I was in a band," and she was going, "You should do it." And I go, "There's a lot in town. It's not just something you do on the weekends or every now and then." I go, "This is a commitment. If we're going to do something like that, and I know Brian, we're going to record. We're going to have to support the tours. We're going to have to do it. It's going to take part of the family that you don't know." And she went with it. And sometimes we have little battles, as any family would, of hobbies or lifestyles. But But like I said, it's just part of your life, and she understands it. She's here right now. We just had the flight from hell that just lasted 39 hours just to get to where we're at right now. 4 hours of sleep, but we're going on that stage, and I'll leave everything that's left of me on that stage.
All for the love of metal.
All for the love of metal. You're right.
Thank you so much.
This man right here.
Thank you so much.
Brian Korban.
Good luck. Keep it going. Another 40 years.
Thanks for having
Got
us.
it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.